There we go. Good morning, Crane. It's the morning, Friday, 28th of September. It's an absolutely stunningly beautiful early autumn morning here up at Misson Springs in North Nottinghamshire. And it's the end of the week and the end of an extremely eventful week. And in many ways, a somewhat disturbing week as it becomes increasingly evident that the UK is in the grip of absolute insanity, a corporate controlled madness where the judiciary have seemingly completely lost all sense of balance. And yesterday I was discussing Judge Robert Oldham, and I want to share a little bit more about Judge Robert Oldham this morning, because this is the judge who 2 days ago sentenced three peaceful protesters, three young men who had had the audacity to follow the courage of their conviction and surf vehicles heading towards the frack pad at Preston New Road. Well, on Tuesday, when Judge Oldham announced that he would defer passing his verdict until the sentence rather until the Wednesday morning, I suggested that perhaps he would sleep on it and common sense would prevail, and that he would hand down suspended sentences at the worst. However, it's quite likely, of course, that Judge Robert Oldham received a telephone call from his boss and was reminded of the facts of life and who cut his salary check, and that he needed to do what needed to be done and sentence these pesky environmental protectors. Well, let's go back to September 2016, in fact almost exactly 2 years ago, when Judge Robert Oldham was presiding over a case, the case of Jeffrey Taylor. Now, Jeffrey Taylor was before him, and he was up in court because he was caught with 10,000 indecent and extreme pornographic images on his computer. Apparently 684 images of the most serious category A and 228 other extreme pornographic images. And here's what Judge Oldham said. He said, when one looks at the real images, because some apparently were CGI, each and every one of them represents sexual abuse and sometimes rape of living, breathing children. Somewhere in the world, there is a child who has been seriously sexually abused or raped in order for people like you to gain some gratification from them. It is beyond any reasonable person to understand how anyone could gain any sort of gratification from watching a person perform a sexual offence on a child. These are not girls in their early teens. They are children under 10. Certainly in one image, a child who can be no more than 2 or 3 years old. That makes it an extremely serious offence. People like you, by downloading and looking at these images, generate a demand. And people like you, by generating that demand, perpetuate the abuse of little children. For that reason, you ought to be thoroughly ashamed of yourself. And then Judge Oldham went on to sentence Jeffrey Taylor to 9 months in jail, suspended for 12 months, and placed him on curfew for 30 weeks. Now, that could have been an aberration. Maybe it was the first time that Judge Oldham had come up against this kind of offence. But what on earth could have persuaded him to apply such a lenient sentence? Well, a little while later, in June of 2017, Keith Harley was up before Judge Oldham on 3 counts of possession of indecent images, with 254 deemed category A, 170 at category B, and 33,704 at Category C. Most involved girls aged 8 to 10. Judge Oldham said, "I have absolutely no doubt that you were someone who from 2011 was actively seeking for images of children by which you would achieve some twisted sexual gratification. And Judge Oldham sentenced Keith Harley to 12 months jail, suspended for 2 years, and ordered Harley to complete 250 hours of community unpaid work and undergo 12 months supervision." So this is a judge who deems possession of serious child pornography to be little more than a minor misdemeanor. And then, of course, just 2 days ago, he sentences Rich Loiseau, a 31-year-old teacher who's associated with Schumacher College in Devon and works at an independent school that teaches young adults with learning difficulties. Simon Blevins, a 26-year-old soil scientist, and Richard Roberts, a 36-year-old piano tuner and restorer. And he sentences these 3 young men who follow the courage of their conviction by engaging in peaceful protest, by surfing the trucks at Preston Road. As I observed at the time, it seemed that the police were deliberately leaving them on the trucks when they had the resources, they had the means to remove them from the trucks, and the only reason that they could be leaving them on the trucks was to set them up for jail sentences. And who better to carry that out than Judge Robert Oldham, who is very clearly a safe pair of hands as far as the establishment are concerned. So this is an absurd miscarriage of justice. And if, as some have observed, that Judge Robert Oldham is also associated with his family business, which is marine shipping and servicing the offshore oil and gas industry, then there is little doubt that there is a case here to call for a mistrial and for the immediate release of the 3 protesters here, sentenced to 15 and 16 months incarceration. And of course, even with time off for good behavior, they will still serve at least half of that sentence. So obviously, the awareness of this is rising despite the apparent media blackout on the situation, but that's only serves to highlight the control of the lamestream media. And clearly, there is no freedom here to, or no independence to offer comment. It's simply not addressed, I think, other than a paragraph in the Times yesterday. But unless something occurs today, and I haven't had a chance to see the media yet, then it seems that there is pretty much a blackout on it. So it comes down to the alternative media and to the power of campaigning. And I know that many people are on it. John McDonnell has made reference, the Deputy Leader of the Labour Party has made reference to the outrageous sentences here. And of course, Jeremy Corbyn has restated his commitment to outlawing fracking if and when he comes into number 10. So alternatively, there's an opportunity, of course, to make contact with Lord Chief Justice Burnett. I mean, not that I'm expecting him necessarily to do anything other than, of course, receive a significant volume of correspondence expressing concern at this outrageous imbalance of the justice system in the UK. A justice system that protects paedophiles, which we know is an establishment ill. It's a control mechanism. Dig the dirt, have something on these politicians, and then they will do your bidding for the rest of their lives. So, let's get people writing to Lord Chief Justice Burnett, so writing to the Law Society, and let's see what impact we can have in getting these outrageous sentences overturned. I know that there's a lot of discussion going on in various quarters about public events, launching public events to raise awareness of this. And I've no doubt that that will start tomorrow. And of course, tomorrow at the new camp, just a little way away from the previous one at the B&Q site in Preston Road, local businessman, stroke thug, Pete Marquis, has threatened to physically remove the protectors there. And this is almost a reenactment of Kinder Scout back in 1932. So, if you feel that the presence of the protectors at Preston Road is important, then please go along and help those who are being threatened by a local thug who is clearly at the beck and call of Quadrilla. It's increasingly, or should be increasingly, obvious that this corrupt corporatist state is actually in a world of hurt. The governing party has got more than enough on its plate with Brexit, and the judiciary are now being sort of put into place to effectively establish a parliamentary raft of laws that restrict the freedoms of people in this country. The charade of democracy, the veil has surely now fallen for an increasing number of people. And the bottom line is that unless we, the collective we, participate in bringing about the changes that we all know we need to see, then the prognosis is not pretty. And the legacy that we will be condemning future generations to just doesn't bear thinking about. So I'm at Misten Springs Protection Camp here. I'm awaiting the delivery of the court bundle, pending my challenge to the IGAS injunction at Misten Springs, Tinker Lane and Ellesmere Port. IGAS yesterday had the audacity to tell me that they were also going to send me a bill for the photocopying and the shipping costs of that bundle. Well, we'll see what the court has to say about that as and when. But I will be back on Monday morning at 8:30 a.m. But please, over the course of the weekend, take a look at what is occurring on a wider basis in this country. And perhaps a good place to start is by watching the UK Column News, which goes out 3 days a week now from Plymouth, a beautiful new studio overlooking Plymouth Sound. And there will be a broadcast at 1 o'clock today, and that can be viewed on www.ukcolumn.org/live, or simply punch UK Column Live into YouTube. Okay, have a great weekend, and I will catch with you on Monday morning. Take care now.